Hello everyone, and welcome to Autocrat, episode 13.
100% off liver.
Have a guess who it can be? It is Prometheus!
Yes, this is the story of the Titan Prometheus, which we, as far as I remember, have been hinting we'll get to for quite some time now, probably ever since Prometheus was introduced.
Probably. It's a very interesting story. It's one of the one I know the most about. But
yes.
Let's get into that.
Yeah, let's get the boring version of the story out of the way first, because, believe it or not, there is a boring version.
Really?
Diodorus of Sicily gives a more grounded version of this Greek myth, where Prometheus is a governor of a section of Egypt, and apparently Heracles stops a river from changing course, and this story over time gets exaggerated into his being freed from the torment he gets to later in the episode. But that's just way too boring. So, let's get to the more exciting versions of the mythology, shall we?
Yeah, we shall.
We've met Prometheus before by maybe breaking Zeus's head open to allow Athena to be born. Do you remember during, I think it's episode 8, when the daughter of Metis is born from Zeus's head? I
do remember, she was giving him a headache.
Yes.
As all daughters do.
I think we made that joke in episode 8 as well.
We did.
But it deserves repeating. However, Prometheus' most famous story is not anything to do with breaking people's heads open or for his role in the war with the Titans, as we discussed in episode 2, but for his involvement with humans. So let's see how exactly we got there, shall we?
We shall.
Now, supposedly, Eros tasked Prometheus and Epimetheus, who's his brother who we also met a few episodes ago, with giving gifts to all the animals, so we're back at the beginning of the world again. They first busied themselves with animals and gave so liberally there was nothing left for people. People are only mentioned a few times at this point in the story. I'm assuming they were in the pipeline at this point because they make them out of clay and somewhere else said to be soil and water. But they are mentioned as being on the way, so presumably they were planned but just hadn't been realised yet. Humans were made in the same shape of the gods, which reminds me in a way of the Christian Bible, because God makes humans after his likeness in the first book of Genesis.
Yep.
Eros breathed life into them by exhaling into their nostrils, and Athena gave humans a soul. They were given the ability to look up into the sky, unlike other animals which face the ground. There is a story, however, that we need to cover about Prometheus and humans before the famous fire incident, which I'm sure everyone is dying for us to get to.
Yes.
Specifically, humans and gods apparently disagreed, and Prometheus arbitrated. I think the disagreement was about which parts of a sacrifice went to whom, so what stayed with people and what was given to the gods. Prometheus carved up an ox and covered the meat and fat of the ox with something unappetizing, I wasn't quite sure what when I read the text, and hid the bones under a layer of fat in another bowl, so he's making what is bad look good, and vice versa.
So is he trying to trick Zeus?
Yes, we'll get to that. Zeus joked the portions weren't really all that fair, and Prometheus answered that, well, he should pick which one he wanted. Zeus didn't spot the trick and wanted to trick humans, so picked the bowl with fat and got given the bones underneath. And this is why humans burn bones to the gods, so because of Prometheus they aren't burning all the nice bits to the gods, but instead are just burning the bones and keeping the meat.
How did he trick Zeus of all people?
Yeah, it's very interesting that we get this sense of the gods being eminently fallible in these stories. However, Prometheus was proud of humans, his creation, and wanted to give them some big sense of might that other animals did not have, so something to bring them up above animals and closer to the gods. He thought that fire would do the trick, but only the gods were allowed to have it. Prometheus was aware that, well, the gods were jealous of it and would not part with it or forgive someone who stole it lightly. Still...
So, he still resolved to get a hold of it?
Yeah, exactly.
As you would?
Yeah. At night, he stole a fiery branch, which was apparently a fennel stalk, and went down from Olympus. He gave it to humans who used it and were grateful. However, you might be thinking that consequences can't be held off forever, and you'd be right, because Zeus picked up on, all the light down on the ground and put 2 and 2 together. He was furious and vowed to dish punishment out to Prometheus, because this is now the second time that Prometheus has done something to deceive him.
He's quite a clever man, this Prometheus.
Yeah.
Well, if he was that clever, he wouldn't have done any of it, but still, quite clever anyway.
Yeah. I think Prometheus actually means foresight in Greek, whereas Epimetheus means hindsight. So there's a reason why he's so clever, if that's true, but don't quote me on that. This is half remembered. Anyway, Prometheus was grabbed and taken to the mountains in the Caucasus, and apparently the mountain in question is Mount Caucasus in Scythia, which I'm not sure whether that just means that our name for the Caucasus comes from here, or whether there's a language drift over time, but this is apparently the specific mountain according to the myth. He was tied up in chains made of adamantine, and a vulture, or an eagle in the Homeric hymns, would eat his liver every day and cause terrible pain to Prometheus. At night his liver would grow back, continuing the cycle again. For generations, Prometheus would labour under this torture. Now, Æschylus, a Greek playwright, wrote 3 plays about Prometheus, and one of them is actually about this particular event. It's called Prometheus Chained, and opens with Hephaestus fixing Prometheus to the mountain at Zeus's orders. Prometheus is shown as hating the gods for undeservedly suffering, including blaming Hermes for his situation when he comes to give a message.
Why would he blame Hermes?
I haven't read the full text, but I think it just means he's angry at the gods in general, and so says Hermes is part of the problem. But Hermes probably thinks, don't shoot the literal messenger.
A bit like when Zeus was blaming Gaia for his problem in an earlier episode.
I guess a little bit, but you can understand Prometheus being at least slightly upset at his predicament.
A little bit.
However, one of our future protagonists, Heracles, would eventually kill the bird and set Prometheus free. Heracles releasing Prometheus was Zeus's wish as well, because it was supposed to increase the glory of Heracles. One little detail which doesn't really go anywhere else, but is a sort of foreshadowing to a future episode, is that Prometheus actually has a son we will meet later called Deucalion, who married his cousin called Pyrrha. We will get to them in future episodes, and for those who want a bit of a teaser, just imagine Noah's Ark, is all I'm going to say.
Alright.
However, there is a final aspect of Prometheus stealing fire that we need to get to, because, well, Zeus set a price, as it were, for that fire. At Zeus's command, Hephaestus made a female likeness out of clay. Apparently he did it as a favour for Zeus, which gives some idea of the family dynamic going on here, which I thought was interesting. Athena clothed her, and the gods found themselves speechless at this woman. There's a lot of stuff about how problematic women are at this point, which we're going to lightly skip over. In the works and days of Hesiod, Hermes gave her the ability to talk, and for reasons we'll get to next episode, she was known as Pandora. Hermes then took her to Epimetheus, and we will get to Pandora next time.
Yes.
So, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you all very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the story of Prometheus.
Thank you all for listening. Prometheus has been a story I really wanted to hear about, even though I really know it quite well.
Yep.
It's always been one of my favourite stories. I've read lots of theatre plays about it, actually,
Oh, right.
when I was studying in school. Hope you enjoyed, and see you next time. Just have a look at our website and have a look at our TikTok. It's quite funny, and drop us an email and have fun, everyone. Have a great week.
Yeah, have a great week. So I'm hoping this lived up to your expectations.
That was fun.
Yeah. It's a fun story. I mean, not for Prometheus, but still.
I did read a lot of theatre school play of Prometheus.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you actually read, if so, any of the Æschylus plays, because I found out there's several. I think there's more people in